Greetings and salutations, fellow thinkers and drinkers and Motorhead fans. In our chronology of the collected and recorded works of Motorhead, we have reached the year 2008, which means it must be Motorizer. Yes, after a 2-year gap since the rather splendid Kiss of Death. Not too much background on this one. Not too many changes. No changes to the band, obviously. And Cameron Webb is still very much entrenched as producer. So what did they serve us up this time? Well, we start with Runaround Man, which is really fast and really heavy. It sort of growls along. It was actually described by Lemmy as nonsense set to an infectious beat. The man does, or did, have a way with words, and I think that about sums it up. It's strong musically, it's got a good melody, and it's a great start to the album. So far, so good. Moving on to Teach You How to Sing the Blues. It's got some really, really great bass work by Lem. It's a bit slower than the opener, but again, it's a strong effort. Not the most memorable thing I've ever heard. Very typical Motorhead construction on this one. You know what I mean. We've heard these sort of things before, but no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perhaps not the most memorable. Which brings us to When the Eagle Screams, which is a really metal, for Motorhead, sounding track. What you would describe as mid-tempo for latter-day Motorhead, shall we say. Not much of a hook to this one. It's all fairly straightforward. But yes, again, it's a good, solid effort. Okay. Alright, we move on to Rock Out. This is a bit thrashier, and was this a single? I don't remember. Yeah, we know these, we've heard this before, this type of thrashier, metally Motorhead songs. They usually do them really well, and this is no exception. There's more of a hook to this one, much stronger vocal melody, certainly compared to the previous two tracks. And with lyrics like rock out with your cock out, how can you possibly go wrong? Well, you can't, and it's a really good song. It's a lot of fun, and it's the best thing on the record thus far. One Short Life does slow things down a little, but it's compensated by having a really nice groove to it. It moves along quickly, quietly, does its things, says hello, says goodbye, doesn't outstay its welcome, but again, it's not the strongest track they've ever recorded. Buried Alive is furious. Really fast, really heavy, and yet they still managed to infuse it with a catchy tune. And again, this is really strong stuff. Things looking up? Most definitely. By the time we get to English Rose, things are definitely looking up. It's the only, well, thus far at least, shall we say, the only hint of rock and roll type, Motorhead type of rock and roll on this particular album. And it's only a hint, to be fair. But again, they managed to infuse a super catchy vocal melody on this and an equally catchy hook to it. It's really, really strong stuff, and yeah, it's probably now, this is my favorite thus far. We move on to Back on the Chain, which has got a really great beat to it for a it's that mid-paced Motorhead song we've heard. Clinical analysis wouldn't probably inspire you to think that this is a particularly memorable track, but it's just one of those. It sticks in your head. I can hear it now. Yeah, it's strange actually. As I said, if you on paper this should be nothing to write home about, but somehow there's something to it that really sticks in your head, really makes it work. And there's no particular hook to it. There's no great catchy chorus. I don't know what it is, but yeah. Perhaps we just accept it for what it is and get on with life. Well, we can get on with life. For the next track is Heroes. Again, slower. But there's a really strong dynamic to this one. especially on the chorus. Yeah, they're the verse drives along in really unrelenting style, but yeah, they've really put in that extra effort you feel on the chorus. Great musical dynamics at play, and absolutely another high point. Perhaps the best song on the album, if not necessarily my favorite, but perhaps the best. Time Is Right is, on the face of it, your typical Motörhead rocker. It's a good, if typical, construction. Really strong pre-chorus to it. Really catchy, really dynamic. Good vocal melody, good playing. It's a strong track, and I really like it. And the album finishes with The Thousand Names of God. When you hear the initial riff, it's got that ever so slight bluesy feel to it, but that just gives away to another typical Motörhead rocker. Perhaps the most ambitious arrangement on show on this album. It's a grower. You need to listen to it a few times. But it is a really strong end to the album. Now, there's something about this. This is 38 minutes something, this. And like most Motörhead albums, it goes by in a flash. And although this was recorded in 2008, or released in 2008, if nothing else, it had long been de rigueur, almost, since the CD age for bands just to fill up the available space. And in most cases, that just led to the filler quotient being increased. There is something really pleasant about the old, 40-minute album, which was obviously, back in the day, a physical limitation of the LP. But it just seemed, whether it was just serendipity or what, it just seemed to work, didn't it? And it works here. And it works for most Motörhead albums. They don't overstay their welcome. There's not too much on it. They're not filling up space. And the side, perhaps. But I think it adds to the charm. And it certainly adds to the impact. Oh, all right. This again has a really good, clear production on it. Cameron Webb's third, I think, production job with Motörhead. So, they're an established unit now. He knows them. They know him. And it sounds really good. Ever since he took over production duties, there's been absolutely nothing to complain about on that front. As if you go back through the previous videos, they've occasionally been let down, shall we say, by less than stellar productions. But no, this is really good. It's really clear. It's hard. It's dry but not too dry. It's warm but not too soapy. Perfect. As an album, this comes across as more direct. This is more focused, I would say, is perhaps a better word. It lacks the variety of some of the recent previous efforts. There's nothing even remotely soft or balladesque on it. Nothing even like One More Fucking Time. There's nothing even really like Going to Brazil or anything like that. So there's only the occasional hint of that, by now legendary Motörhead rock and roll. But that's fine. Again, for those who say they record the same album every time, as I've said before, they don't. They evolve, they change. It may be nuanced, and you may require familiarity with their catalogue to recognize these changes and nuances, but they are there. And this, to me, is a really focused album. Whatever the reason for that was, whether it was happenstance or just how they were feeling at the time, I am not sure. Perhaps as a result, or perhaps coincidentally, this was their highest charting record since 1916, all the way back in 1991. In the official UK charts, it got to number 32, which I think was, it must have been since No Sleep Till Hammersmith got to number 1. Well, certainly, anyway, since 1916. Their highest charting album. In Germany, it got to number 5. No real surprise there. They've always been popular in Germany. The German market's always been fond of them and kind to them. But perhaps for the first time, they got into the US Billboard Top 200, number 82, however briefly, but they got there. Don't think anybody would have put money on that prior to the album's release, well, you never know. The press were generally kind to it, although the usual caveats applied. It's the same thing, same formula, blah, 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 blah. So we've discussed all this before. I don't need to repeat it again. But as we head towards the finish line, this is another really, really strong, solid effort. And again, as I've said before, their latter-day career produced some of their very best albums and songs and music. And this is a good example of it. It may not be that there are that many standout tracks, as even on the last 3 or 4. But as a whole, as a cohesive whole, this is pretty unbeatable. And surely that's the point of an album. You know, it's not just the single plus something to fill up the space, is it? Or it never used to be. And I think this is one of their real strongest albums from start to finish. You say it may not. It's it's the sports team that doesn't have the 3 or 4 international stars, but they just have the 11 or 15 players they need to make that team very, very successful. If you want an analogy, absolutely no complaints. Again, flies by when you're listening to it. I hear the difference. This is obviously not Kiss of Death. This is obviously not Inferno. This is obviously not Hammered. Much better than Hammered. And it's not Snakebite Love either. It is what it is. It's unique in their catalog, I think. And it's really, really strong. A really good effort. As I said, we have 3 to go. So we're getting near the end of this particular odyssey. And on that note, feel free to let me know, to comment. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Feel free to like, to share, and obviously to subscribe. But until next time, I wish you well, and Maçhonquèrre.